Do you think
So,
there's some animosity between Magnus and Gukesh, or some extra rivalry brewing up? Obviously, Magnus is not defending the world championship anymore. Gukesh got that, and people are, maybe Magnus is not taking it lightly. The fact that a lot of people are thinking that Gukesh is right now uh, the real world champion, and the top contender, the top player in the world. And perhaps Magnus, whenever he plays him, wants to show that he's still the top dog. Is that how you feel it?
well, I think that these things aren't mutually exclusive. I mean, like Gukesh is obviously the real world champion because he won the real
He
world
is, yeah.
championship and he won the candidates, most importantly, to qualify for the world championship. I say most importantly because that's actually the hardest step in the whole process.
Hmm.
Like, just objectively, the qualifying to the candidates is tough. Winning the world championship is tough, but you could maybe say it's a 50-50 in many cases, right? Winning the
Would you
candidates
have
is
said that when Magnus was a world champion also? Would you have said the same thing
no,
when Magnus was a world champion also?
no. Then I think that I wouldn't know. It would be a different type of toughness because, like, let's say when I played Magnus, I thought that it was a pretty close fight. I thought we were pretty evenly matched. Uh, I mean, I think I gave myself 50-50, but okay, maybe it's, I have bias, obviously, so others wouldn't. But I think the tied score after classical did suggest it's a pretty close match, right? So well, let's say you give me 40%. I would have less chances to win the candidates objectively than
Mm.
40%, especially at that time when my rating was even not among the highest players. Okay, because of a bad I can say, but whatever. But there's 8 players. Everyone has a chance for the most part. So what do you give the best? 20% at best if someone's really really good. Uh,
I would have given you around 20%. Yeah, as a top rated player. I think you were the top rated player at that
no, no,
time.
I wasn't, but it was
Um,
because of I can say. So
right, right. I think it was what Mamedyarov, perhaps, was he was very
actually,
close
yeah,
to.
maybe even either Mamadiyar or maybe ironically maybe Kremnik. I'm not sure. Maybe Levon. I know people
Yeah.
forget, but Kremnik was a top player not too long ago, and so okay, so let's say you give someone 20%.
20% is huge. Yeah, in a pack of eight, twenty
It's
percent is
huge. It's
huge.
huge, especially
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
candidates. Um, Maybe for many people you would give them 20% against Magnus. Maybe less, maybe more, but still, it's just a different kind of toughness because one is like you need a bit of luck. Like in the
Hmm.
candidates, you let's say you have 20%, but actually part of that is do things go well for you? Do you play the right guy at the right time? Like do you play someone who's tilted? Do your openings go well in this case or that case? In the World Championship, there's basically almost no variance. Like let's say you play Magnus,
Hmm.
you just have to be stronger than Magnus. He may have an off day here or there, but it's going to be relatively minor. You're not going to catch him in openings. Uh, I mean, okay, we
To
kind
play
of
the
did back
devil's
then.
advocate, 2016, his match against Karyakin, nobody gave Karyakin a high chance, and Magnus showed in the first few games that he was clearly better, superior in every facet of the game, but he was just not getting the breakthrough. And then Karyakin got the first win of the match. He could have gotten the second one immediately after. He didn't, and then Magnus equalized, and obviously history followed after. But he was very close to defeating Magnus in that match.
Sure. I mean, okay, Magnus is definitely a better player and has always been a better player than Karyakin,
Hmm.
which which is not saying much because Magnus is Magnus. Karyakin, we have to recognize that he was legitimately one of the best players in the world for many years, and he won the World Cup, and he won the candidates, and these things don't come with luck. And you
Yeah,
say, okay, he was clearly superior. Sure, Magnus was pressing in a majority of those games. On the other hand, he didn't win. And in chess, you have 3 results. I mean, if you have all draws, then he wasn't superior in all aspects for sure, right? Otherwise, he would have won. Um,
that's
so
that's that's a
Karyakin
way to
won.
look at it. Yeah.
Karyakin was defending bad positions. I don't remember the game numbers. I think game three when Karyakin was white and he allowed c4 in the opening was a big mistake, and this one which famously, like, there was the saying, "I don't believe in fortresses," things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Um, and there was some other game, I think, from the anti-Berlin with Rookie 2, Rookie 1, something like that. Magnus had a bunch of good chances, and then he got frustrated because he couldn't make them into anything tangible. And then he overpressed in one game. I think maybe it was game 8. I can't game 9. I forget. Um,
Yeah, eight,
so
eight, eight, nine, and then in 10, nine could have lost, and then I think 10 was the comeback. I
wasn't the
hope I'm right.
comeback the penultimate? Or no, no, you're right. Game 10 comeback, then game 11 draw, and then game 12 Magnus forced a draw from the
With
opening
white forced a draw. Yeah, yeah.
and went to tiebreaks. So anyway, I think that it's part of that is also um, like the kind of narrative around that match is also underestimating or downplaying Karyakin's strengths, which were, I mean, he was super strong at the time. Of course, Magnus was a better player. Nobody can question that. But in the match, it was still relatively close.
Hmm.
Now, probably Magnus wasn't at his very best. Fair enough. On the other hand, a lot of these things are psychology. When Jan played Magnus, of course, Magnus is also a much better player, and the match showed that in the end. On the other hand, the first 5 games were very close. The sixth game was very close, and if that game had ended in another result, which it could have, Nepo was actually also better in that game, much better. But he eventually lost his very famous, like, 135 move game. I commentated it live with Danny Wrench and Robert Hess. Um, Absolutely exhausting day. We wake up at 2 in the morning, commentate 10 hours. Uh, but one of the greatest World Championship games, legit, like, with no exaggeration, of all
It was a
time.
good game. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Magnus Carlsen, he's going to shush the doubters. He's put his finger to his lips too early in certain events. And there it is. There's the handshake. And that is Magnus Carlsen taking the 3.5, 2.5 lead.
The first decisive game in more than 5 years of classical chess for the World Chess Championship.
but that was the breaking point. After that, it was psychology. After that, it was, you know, Magnus was in a good psychological point of view because he knew he just had to hold on to his lead. He was very confident about that. He was less confident about breaking through. Jan did not believe that he could actually make a comeback. That was my impression of
I
it.
heard a story that he actually booked his after party before the match was over. Like he basically booked his winners after party and he invited his friends before the match was over.
Maybe. I mean, the thing is, of course, he was very confident, and honestly, it felt like that was the game of the match. Like that decided it. In hindsight, also at
Yeah.
the time, it kind of felt like that. But if you look at things before that, it was very, very tight, and Magnus was in trouble in some games, and there was a lot of close calls. So to kind of to look at the match without looking at the details and why and how these things are close and the strengths of the opponent and what they could have done better is, I think, a mistake as well. So Karyakin, of course, maybe Magnus, in another timeline, he wins one of those games, and then the entire match is the walkover. I mean, also can happen, but it didn't happen. And Magnus has his weaknesses as well. One of them was
Hmm.
that he got frustrated. The psychology was actually in Karyakin's favor for a large part of the match.
Yeah, I think we went on a pretty significant historical tangent on that one. It all started with the question about beating Magnus 2-0. And
No, it was about
obviously,
Gukesh.
again, I
It was about
oh
Gukesh.
Gukesh, yes, yes. I
Yeah.
think we started with Magnus, your match against Magnus, and then we went to Gukesh and him
Okay,
being
I'll
the
just
world
answer
champion
because I don't think I
and
actually
everything
answered your
else.
question.
Yes, I don't think you
Uh,
did. No.
no, I like yeah, yeah. So Gukesh is the world
But
champion,
that was a great tangent, by the way. That was a great tangent. I really enjoyed that.
and he's the real world champion, and he deserves it. And Magnus is also stronger than him. It's
Yeah.
two things which can both be said, and they don't detract from the other. Um, Now, does Magnus actually like feel more incentive to beat Gukesh over others? I'm not 100% sure. That was my feeling at some point. I'm not 100% sure, but maybe. But I don't know how much he cares about this relatively like if you think about it, their careers are not going to intersect for super long at some point
Not
because
long at all. Yes, not long at all.
they're
Like
intersecting.
Magnus is kind of on his way out, right? Or at least, especially in classical. In classical, he's one step out, more or less.
I mean, he's not on his way out because he can't participate, but because he seems to be prioritizing other things to some extent. And when I say I mean their careers do intersect in the sense that they will play, but they're not going to be played in the most consequential tournaments. Magnus and Gukesh are not going to be playing a World Championship match because Magnus is not going to try to qualify for this World Championship match, and he's also not going to be played in the candidates for that reason. And okay, now there's this new FIDE World Championship in total whatever chess.
I was just about to ask you that because I felt we were sort of going into that direction and we didn't discuss it.
That's true. Yeah, it's
Previously,
actually
but
something we
yes.
should